Some people living in the Lancashire countryside who haven't got access to broadband. They say they've been missed out by the digital revolution. In a moment we'll hear from the government minister responsible. But first, this is Sam Lester, a teenager who lives at Lowgill near Ray in the Loon Valley.
Oh, it's just a great hassle. I'm in my final year of school now, and just the pressure's piling up, and just find this out on the internet, and I just can't get to it. I don't quite have the resources everyone else has.
And years ago, school just didn't believe you, did they, when you said, we haven't got broadband?
No, we didn't get it from the very beginning. They set work, and we just wouldn't be able to do it. So you come in Monday morning, so I couldn't get on the internet. That's not an excuse, and then you end up in detention and having to stay behind to do it anyway, and staying at lunch. Yeah, the more understanding now, but yeah, I do have to stay behind school, get home 6:30 every night. It's just a real pain.
A campaign group's been set up called Final Third First to lobby the government. Christine Conder, who helped set up Ray's own community broadband network, is part of it. She says they aren't looking for handouts from the government, they just want the problem sorted.
What they could do is take away some of the red tape, then we can join up the dots, get the councils working, the utility companies, just make it easier for us, and we can do a lot of it ourselves. It's about enabling us to help ourselves. We're not asking government to spend loads of money doing it for us. We're asking them to help us do it.
I'm joined now by the Digital Britain Minister, Stephen Timms. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
People living without broadband in this modern country of ours, it's a disgrace, isn't it?
It's a serious problem indeed, and for school children, as we've heard, and perhaps even more so for businesses. Rural businesses need to compete with their urban competitors. And to do that on a fair basis, they need broadband, and that's why we've got our programme underway.
Well, talking about businesses, we had a call from Lindsay, who lives in the countryside. She wanted to put this question to you.
For companies like mine, Digital Industries, 2 megabits is not going to be enough today. It wasn't enough 5 years ago. What is it going to do to help companies like mine stay in the UK?
What are you going to do?
Well, first of all, we are going to make sure everybody can get access to 2 megabits over the next couple of years. About 10% of UK homes at the moment can't, so we need to put that right first. But secondly, we need to move on to what is called next generation broadband, high-speed broadband, the higher speeds which your caller referred to. And our aim is to get that out to 90% of UK homes, or within reach of 90% of UK homes by 2017. The way we're going to do that is by introducing a 50p a month levy on telephone lines later on this year. Over 7 years, that'll generate about £1 billion, and that will enable us, we think, to get next generation broadband out to 90%. But I welcome the Final Third First campaign. I think the goal that they set is absolutely the right one, because if nothing happens, if there's no public support, then these higher speed broadband services will only get to about 2/3 of UK homes. We want to get them out to the rest.
Christine Conder, who is part of that campaign group that you touched on there, she just wants some of the red tape getting rid of. If you were really concerned about this, you could do that today, couldn't you?
Well, that is being done. Ofcom, the regulator, is making some changes that will help, but there's no getting away from the fact that if we are going to get the big investment that's going to be needed, particularly to get these services out to rural areas, that is going to require public funding. It won't happen otherwise. Public funding won't be the whole solution, but it does need some public funding to bring in, to make it feasible for the telecommunications companies to make the investment that's needed. So, yes, there are things we can do on regulation, but there'll need to be public support as well.
But if you talk about public funding, we all know that this country's got no money, so it sounds like it's not going to happen.
No, it will happen with the 50p a month levy on phone lines. As I say, that'll bring in about £150 million per year, £1 billion over 7 years. That funding will be used solely for extending next generation broadband out into rural areas. That way we can hit the target that we've set.
But why are we so bad at this in this country? Because we heard this morning from Lindsay, who we played that little clip of to you then. You know, places like Portugal Lithuania are miles ahead of us.
Well, we're well ahead of lots of countries, including the US, for example. If you look at the amount of broadband, the number of people who are using broadband in the UK, we're ahead of most other countries, including, I think, the ones you've mentioned in terms of numbers of people already using broadband services. But things are changing very fast. We've got to move quickly, and that's why it's so important that we provide public funding to get on with these next generation services. And make sure that we keep a UK lead, including in rural areas where it is so important for businesses and for schools.
What can you promise the people who we've heard from this morning in our breakfast show, who live in rural parts of Lancashire, who don't have any broadband?
Well, first of all, I completely agree with them about how important this is in rural areas. In fact, the Commission for Rural Communities a couple of weeks ago came up with a report just pointing out how big an issue this is for education, for businesses in rural areas.
So what are you going to do for them?
We're going to make sure there is universal availability of 2 megabits per second broadband, the kind of basic broadband speed that most people are using at the moment. We want that to be available universally by 2012. We've identified funding to achieve that. We've put in place 2 weeks ago our organisation, Broadband Delivery UK, its Chief Executive, Adrian Camelard, to get on with procuring the services that will achieve that universal goal by 2012. And beyond that, then, we want these higher speed services to be available, as I said, right across the country to at least 90% of UK households by 2017. But to achieve that, we'll need the 50p a month levy on phone lines that will be in the finance bill that will be introduced in a few weeks' time.
We have been told by Lindsay again this morning that 2 megabits still isn't enough.
For most people, it isn't enough, including for most businesses. For some, it isn't. And increasingly, people will need the higher speeds that next-generation broadband is making possible. That's why it's so important to get on introducing the 50p a month levy and getting underway with the investment in next-generation services in rural areas as well as urban. In urban areas, the services are already available through Virgin Media. BT is going to be providing next-generation services, a big investment over the next couple of years. The challenge is to extend that investment out into rural areas, and that's where government funding is needed.
Stephen Timms, thanks for joining us this morning. It's a breakfast show. It's BBC Radio Lancashire. It's just gone 8:30. BBC Radio Lancashire. Watch out for delays.